Alright, let's do a build showcase for the build that I'll have on max roll, and I'll link that in the video as well. But since it's been asked for by my friends and people I've played with, let's go ahead and show what's going on here. Gear. I rolled this staff with high damage from Gwennon, I think it was, and corrupted it. High damage was the main stats that you want to look for. Obviously, attack speed, crit damage are really good as well, but anything that's like better than this that would have attack speed and or crit damage would be like 50, 60 div plus. I have 2 unset rings for the extra skill slots since I'm using every single skill slot, and I'll go over those in a second. This big 2800 evasion chest that helps give me all the spirit that I need with my Lead Me Through Grace, and then also gives me a big boost with Bestial Skin. The rest of these pieces are going to be how I puzzled in my resistances. So 3 resistances on this ring, 2 on this one, big res on my boots, and 35 move speed, socketed chaos resistance into each of these pieces, and then 3 res on my belt, 1 res on my gloves so I can get attack speed and crit damage bonus, and then this is just a instilled with storm charge and corrupted with rarity, extra rarity, and just life, or just mana and intelligence, and then the life. Running a freeze charm, and I think that's mostly it for the gear. For gems, I have the controlled metamorphosis, so I could get these 2 and save some points here, and then also the falcon technique. I was considering getting these as well, but I had to take them out to move some points elsewhere to get the build to flow as nicely as I wanted and be a little bit more boss specific, since we were running 3-man bosses and I needed more mana, which I usually run this node as well, but we're going to try changing a few things and seeing how that works. Gems in here. This one's very important because it gives the increased effect of small passives in radius, which gives me more reservation, which allows me to have exactly 288 spirit, which exactly works for what I need to do Combat Frenzy, Herald of Ice, Cast on Freeze, Wind Dancer, Herald of Thunder, Cast on Crit, and Grim Feast. Now you can remove some of these for simpler builds or cheaper builds. I just added Grim Feast in recently to help out a little bit. It seems like the one-shots are always a thing regardless. Which to another point, which is why I don't have acrobatics, because the one-shots seem to be the only problem. So either on bosses or just, you know, random rares that are crazy tuned up one-shotting you, and I don't see any way around it besides just being better and avoiding everything. And yeah, I used to run Tempest Flurry. I really prefer it much more than this, but I've switched to this to get more freezes, and it does seem to help with the control and utility a bit more. Even though until level 94, 93, yeah, basically just until 1 level ago, I ran Tempest Flurry, and I very much more appreciate that for its play and smoothness, but there is benefits to either, and either are viable. What other gems? Some gems with raw stats, some freeze build up here, ailments. What else is important? Penetrate, resistance, attack speed, damage, quarterstaves. This one's important. So this one gives rage on melee hit. You can run a regular gem as well and get like 2 rage on melee hit, or you can get something that gives a little bit more. So This gives some small passive increases. This gives some melee damage and some area of effect. All pretty relevant. Inflict bleeding is not really that relevant, but you know, anything helps. Put it over here because there's a lot of nodes over here. So this gives me the rage here, here, and here, and then all these other ones give a little bit of melee damage. And then this also gives some area of effect. One of them that's important is the recover mana on kill. So this has some penetrate res, recover mana on kill, and crit mana regen. Just some other somewhat relevant stats. What else? What else? What else? I would like more gems, but yeah, a little low on the available points. Mostly specking to how most people spec with these Invoker builds that isn't the Storm Wave. A bunch of crit, a bit of damage, a little bit of attack speed, the staves, tree over here, some heralds, and then let's see, I also am hybrid into some flicker build, so run just a couple more maximum power charges and then get a huge damage bonus from crit damage bonus for using the actual power charges. This is good. So energy shield for the body armor. So that big body armor gives 12 divided by 28, whatever that is, almost. So let's see, 1200, 14. Yeah, so it gives a bunch. 350, something like that. We're triggering a lot, so getting 3% of mana back on the invoke is really good for this specific build. I am playing around with changing up a little bit on how that works, but the only issue is on super juiced, maxed out Atlas boss passives with like 3 players, and then just running out of mana really quickly. So this helps a little bit. And this gives 40% damage if you triggered recently, so that's really good. That's just pretty much always up. And then extra meta skill energy, which is good. Running the power charge conversion from Combat Frenzy. So anytime we freeze, gives us power charges, which is really nice. So Lead Me Through Grace. Either any of these really work. Extra cold damage, extra lightning damage. This does give a bunch of damage, which is really nice. So like 6k effective DPS is super nice. Creates the shock ground. I'm shocking less when I'm not running Tempest Flurry, so I opted to put more into the meta skills. This probably isn't helping too much, but I gotta do some more testing. And then a lot of this helps with the elemental expression. So we're critting all the time, triggering elemental expression. This does one of the 3, so like if we hit with cold, we're going to do a critical hit. It's going to critical hit, so we'll do a cold exposure, increase the cold exposure, just have this do 8 additional projectiles just because why not. More projectiles, and then blind. So elemental expression is triggered all the time, so having the enemies blinded is really good. Ice Strike, we're just pumping damage and attack speed, so more area of effect, more elemental damage, more physical damage, and then leech a little bit to help. If mana's not an issue, we can swap this out for something else like Lightning Infusion or some more damage from one of the other gems. I swap these around a lot just to see what works the best. But then we have Combat Frenzy, we have Herald of Ice. So Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder. These are the 2 combos for clearing the big waves. So Herald of Thunder is going to be infused with cold, going to do more cold on freezing, which this could go pretty much on Ice Strike or here as well. But this does more freeze buildup, and then more attack damage for enemies far away, and then we're penetrating some cold resistance here. And what that's going to do is allow that to freeze with the Herald of Thunder, and then we can trigger the Herald of Ice. This does more damage in an area, more damage on low life, 35 lightning damage if we kill someone with shocked, and then getting some energy shield back with Shock Siphon, though I don't think this is really needed when I'm running Grim Feast, so that can be swapped out. And then extra lightning damage, just so we can do some shocking as well and trigger the other stuff. Tempest Spell, like all the other builds, get an additional one. 10 rage to be consumed, dealing more damage if you have it. Crit from a power charge, super nice. Does big damage. More damage closer to you, and then mana here, which I swapped on for some bosses. That can be swapped out. Cast on Freeze. So I was running Eye of Winter with the Cast on Critical, which is really good. Triggers all the time. It gives them the critical weakness, which gives you a shitload of base crit chance against them. So like you're pretty much going to be at like whatever your base crit chance is plus the inherent base 10% crit chance. So like if you had 15% base, this would be 10% more base, so then you'd be at 25%. If you have 400% increase to that, you're at 100%. So that's really great. Much more useful for bosses because everything else basically gets just blown up on the screen. Chaining from your belt to the boss and so forth is really good. That's primarily its role, is to give that critical weakness on the bosses and any other tough enemies, and then chain back and then just trigger a bunch. Wind Dancer, just with some supports for the extra evasion, and I'm at 86% evasion. I don't really run a lot of evasion nodes, just a little bit, because I haven't really figured out how to actually survive any better aside from the one-shots. So, and then something that's different about this is I run a combo with Flicker, since I always have power charges. So when we have the buffs from Ice Bite and the lightning buff as well, basically we just deal extra cold and lightning damage, and this blows everyone up if they live from the other stuff. Charge Staff for a buff as well. Before I go there, just the regular staff charges or supports don't remove charges. Wait, this is Flicker, sorry. This is not removing charges, and then moving gives you more damage, more physical damage. I don't think this does anything, and then just pumping it up with some more damage. This could probably go on one of my others as well if I care. Maybe Ice Strike, but yeah, just kind of fitting these in wherever. A lot of them are interchangeable. Charge Staff is going to shock if we can. Lightning exposure, penetrate lightning resistance, more skill, duration, pretty standard. And then Herald of Thunder has the cold infusions, and then Cast on Critical. I just swapped this to Comet, and I swapped it to a lower level spell so I could have more mana. Comet just gonna help with the bosses and tougher enemies, and then just pump it with the meta cost, refunding, echo, and more damage. So it does big damage. Not as big as if you were full spell spect, but like pretty decent damage when it's just proccing them all the time. And then Grim Feast just helps you overcharge your energy shield. As for the skills, somewhat standard. Some of this is very specific to mine, so I hit these breakpoints exactly. So 164 intelligence, 191 dex, strength. I could have more. I'm working on getting a better necklace like this. This might be good enough, so I get a bunch of my attributes, which will help with dexterity, intelligence, so I can run some more freedom in my builds, and then more intelligence means more attack speed from this. With that, yeah, we're using every single bit of spirit because of these three, and these were pumped up just to 1 extra % with this gem, and it literally comes down exactly to what I need based on how much I get from this. So with that being said, we can do something. I don't know if I want to run a super juiced Citadel, but let's see. Let's just do a step is decent. What do I got? We'll just do this, and we'll do a 15 to showcase that it is decent for a build. And then I think that's pretty much everything. Maxed resistances. Maxed everything we can. If I had more experience, I would run with this Omen to complete my leveling, but I am so low right now, it doesn't matter. Alright, let's showcase it. So we'll just start, get some charges, get my buff, and then just start killing everything, looking for the breach. Flicker is nice because it obviously can do flicker shit and just pop off, but it also is like a nice oh shit button. If things are getting hairy, just hit flicker and you'll pop everything and move around so much that you don't get hit as much, so it is kind of nice. I originally incorporated it for that reason in my earlier builds, and then it's just actually does pump pretty decently. So we can showcase how this is good. Continuing to use my charges so I get that damage bonus, and then just wait for a nice big pack, and then we'll just pop them with flicker. And then just get some more charges by ice striking, moving around, not getting killed. Keeping the breach going, and then just wait till there's a whole bunch of them, and pop some flicker. And it's a little bit of both, which is nice. On bosses as well, it's super nice. Depending on how long the fight is, like we had a 3-man Trial Master fight that I was just really running low on mana. You could always put the life or the mana leech on flicker, and then you can drop a Tempest spell, and then flicker between your bell and the boss, and does a bunch of damage. But yeah, this is it's pretty smooth, pretty good. The dual heralds also proc all time and just do a chain reaction. So between that and your so between that and between flicker, you're pretty much just blowing up the entire screen. So that is the showcase, and I will make another video on doing some max level bosses next.